Hello, everybody, and welcome to 38 Weeks to Go, your weekly podcast about fantasy football. Game week 14 is done with an average of 58. How did you do? Definitely much better than the last few weeks, right? I myself got 88, so I feel like I really called this game week well, from my perspective. I made a huge gamble, and the gamble was triple captaining Haaland. I honestly did not know I would do it in advance. I just thought everyone was waiting for Leeds, and that's when I used my free transfer. And now everyone was waiting for the West Ham game. And I was like, I can't wait for that. Let me just get it out of the way because I also have my bench boost and I want to get rid of my chips before the next ones open. And I felt like I was hoarding them too much. I couldn't decide when. So I said, okay. I remember watching the end of the Man City game and I saw Haaland and Pep really in deep discussion. And I was like, this boy is just going to score the next game. That was just the feeling I had. I was like, this guy is just going to score the next game. It's going to be the revenge game. And he could have had a hat trick. He hit the post twice. Anyway, triple captaining Haaland was really good for me because that ended up being 42 points compared to the 6 that many of you guys had last week. I'm sorry about. I feel like I couldn't have used this better. Now, even though the game week was better, there was something that emerged to me that was really scary. When my team started, I have Welbeck, Neto, and Saka, and all three of them started off the bench. I was very fortunate that Saka and Neto scored, but they came off the bench. And now, with these fixtures coming quick and fast, it means there's going to be a lot of rotation, and you need to be careful with your players. This one's a bit hard to predict because it all depends on the manager. I hate how Enzo Maresca does his rotations because they make no sense. And I believe he's been very lucky, particularly in the Champions League with his rotations. And he got punished this week. His rotations didn't make sense and the team suffered for it. Now I'm hoping this will make him a bit more pragmatic. Now, Saka didn't play, Minter didn't play. I mean, not Minter, but Saka, Neto, and Welbeck. And this means that a lot of you, these are just the people that affected my team. I'm sure for some of you, like for example, if you have Rhys James, you are affected by that. If you have Timber, you know the same thing happened to him. Other highlights from this weekend that are notable, I mean, not weekend, but week, is that Bournemouth, Semenyo, he's not it. If you can get off him, I think this is the time. I mean, he got 4 and I'm not complaining about 4, but he's no longer the guy he was for the first 5 game weeks and we've been living on dreams. Fulham versus Man City, Chukwueze from Fulham came on and he was crazy. Foden is, I don't want to say back, but he is definitely something. Arsenal are still good for a clean sheet even though they rotated their defense a bit. Watkins might be back. Maybe this is the beginning of a streak. So if you're a gambler, this might be the right time to jump on. Crystal Palace kept a clean sheet, but they were so lucky to keep a clean sheet. If you watch those highlights, it feels like all they did was score. Of course, Mateta had a chance or two, but outside that, not really. Nottingham Forest kept a clean sheet, which is what we expected. Van Dijk, I think Van Dijk is done. He keeps using his butt to score goals. Sunderland seemed to be like the real deal. I had no idea they were owned by a billionaire. I just watched some random documentary last night about them. Dreyfus, 23-year-old billionaire. What were you doing when you were 23? Anyway, the most disappointing game of this game week so far was Leeds 3, Chelsea 1. Now, Chelsea had a week where they drew with Arsenal, beat Barcelona, and so understandably, hopes and dreams were high. But on the pitch, it was a different thing because now they don't have Caicedo. They paid the Andre Santos. I think Tosin Adarabayo is a bit of a shaky person. They made so many squad rotations that the team couldn't do what it was supposed to do, such that even if they brought Pedro Neto, they brought in Palma, they brought in Garnacho, it just wasn't enough. The damage was already done. Tanaka scored a great goal, Bijol scored a good header, and Calvert-Lewin got the cheapest goal ever. Very Pocheresque. And it's a kind of game where you're like, now, what are we supposed to make of this? And this rotation it hurts a lot. So That's why even last week I was complaining about Reece James and why I had to remove him because of the rotation. If I still had him, he wouldn't have played. And so now next week it'll be Kukurea. Who knows? So Calvert-Lewin got the 3 bonus points. Visual got 2. Tanaka got 2. And that's how it's split. Now, when it comes to the highest scoring game of the week, which was also for me the best game of the week, which I watched the full 90 minutes. Fulham 4, Man City 5. Having triple captained Haaland, I was very interested in this game. And in virtually the first minute, Haaland hit the post, and I was like, oh goodness, is this a thing of sign? Is it a sign of things to come? But thankfully, he then opened the scoring. Then Reinders scored. Foden scored. And then before halftime, Smith Rowe scored to make the game look respectable. And I thought, okay, maybe this game will end 3-4-1. Because it was 3-1 at halftime. Then Haaland scored. Haaland gave an assist to Foden to score in the 48th minute. I was like, okay, maybe it's going to be a walkover. And then in the 54th minute, Sanderberger scored an own goal. And then I was like, oh goodness, maybe Haaland can have his hat-trick, because in between this, he had hit the post twice. And then John Stones and Doku were removed. Iwobi scored. Then they brought on this man called Chukwueze. That brought him on at halftime. And this guy was like Doku versus Liverpool. Nothing Man City could do about him. Absolutely nothing. He just went nuts. 2 goals, 3-5, 70th minute, 4-5. And it was a kind of game where at 70th minute, if it was going on for another 20 minutes, it could have ended 6-5. They were just really on top. And so I was just thankful that the game ended with Haaland getting the points that he did. And Foden got the 3 bonus points. Haaland got 2. And Chukwueze got 1. Harry Wilson had 2 assists. Castagna had 1. Doku had 2 assists. Haaland had 2 assists, which is something that is quite rare. And that's all that she wrote. 5-4. A great game. Another high-scoring game was Aston Villa 4, Brighton 3. 7 goals. The Man City game had 9 goals. What a game. I would say the marquee game of the weekend was Newcastle 2, Spurs 2. In terms of names, that was the highest game in terms of quality. In terms of names matching up against each other. It ended up 2-2, and it was a bit of a... It wasn't as great as it looked. Well, maybe I was spoiled because I watched the other games. But Bruno Guimaraes opened up the scoring, 1-0 at 71 minutes. And at this point, I was regretting not having brought Ramsdale, the goalkeeper, because I brought in Henderson. But everything worked out. And then Romero equalized, 70th minute, assist by Kudus. And then there was a foul. And then Gordon got the penalty and he took it. And then in heartbreak time, Romero scored the equalizer. 2-2 it ended. And Danban and Voltemade had the assists. Kudus and Tel had the assists. 3 bonus points for Romero, Kudus 2, and Bruno Guimaraes 1. And those 3 bonus points are really interesting people to look at for this period of time. And if you're thinking about Africa Cup, because the transfers are about to be live soon, Gameweek 15, you need to know that Ghana is not going. So Kudus will be available and Semenyo will be available. There were 4 clean sheets this weekend. And so apart from defender scoring, it might not be so great. Henderson was a top keeper with 7 points along with Pickford. Raya and Sells had 6. And then Alisson, Roofs, Ariola had 3. When it comes to defenders, the top performing defender was Romero, like he just had. He scored 2 goals against Newcastle. Then Diego Dalot scored for Manchester United yesterday, and he finished with 15 points. Ben White, who had an assist, had 14 points. Munoz, 14 points. Gay, 14 points. Van Hecke, 12 points. Bijou, 12 points. Tarkowski, 10 points. So even if there were 4 clean sheets, you can see the impact having good defenders had. Foden was a top midfielder with 17 points, so him and Romero are tied so far. Merino had 13. Chukwueze, of course, had 12. Onana, Grealish, and Magasta from West Ham had 11. Talby from Sunderland, who scored the goal, had 10. Haaland had 14 points. Watkins, 13. Calvert-Lewin and Igor Jesus, 9. Voltemade and Bowen round up the top 5 with 5. So let's look at some stats generated from the week. And I guess the one you must have heard by now is that Erling Braut Haaland, has joined the 100 goal scorers club. and he is the fastest person to do it. It took him only 111 games to reach 100 goals. Now, Alan Shearer was the previous fastest. He had done it in 124 games. So he has done it in a more efficient manner. Harry Kane and Aguero needed an extra 38 plus games to get to 100 goals. Now, in case you're wondering, Erling Haaland did it in 111 games. Alan Shearer did it in 124 games. Harry Kane did it in 141 games. Aguero did it in 147 games. And Thierry Henry did it in 160 games. Since joining Man City, Haaland, of course, now has scored 100 goals. Mohamed Salah is second with 70 goals. And Alexander Isak is third with 55 goals. So you can see he has been pretty much leagues above everybody around him. He has no peers. Since he joined, the top scorers are like this. Him, 100. Mohamed Salah, 70 goals in 120 games. Isak, 55 goals in 92 games. Ollie Watkins, 51 goals in 125 games. Mbeumo, 43 goals in 114 games. He has also scored against every club he has faced in the Premier League since he joined Manchester City. Even though he has scored against everyone, the only stadium he has not yet scored at is Anfield. So, don't bet for him to score at Anfield just yet. At the Etihad, he is 6 goals behind, or rather, at the Etihad, Aguero has scored 106 goals. And so, he still has the most goals on that ground. Of course, he has scored home and away, so at least Haaland will take some time, but he will break it as well. Haaland scored 36 Premier League goals in his debut season, and he broke the 34-goal single season record set by Andrew Cole and Alan Shearer. And he also did that in 35 matches, while Andy Cole and Shearer did it in 42-game campaigns. And given how he is going this season, with 15 goals in 14 matches, it wouldn't be ridiculous if he scored 40 goals this season. He needs only 22 goals to score and reach that record. 22 sounds like a lot, but Haaland is Haaland. He can have a hat-trick in 2 games and 6 and then another 2, Yeah, you know how Haaland is. He is currently 4 goals clear of his nearest rival in terms of goal scoring and is, barring injury, likely to win the Golden Boot award again. And it would be his 3rd Golden Boot in 4 years. And that would be ridiculous. The record is 4, which is held by Henry and Salah. But if he remains at Man City, he's definitely going to break that. Just in case you're wondering about how the Golden Boot for England is standing, Henry has 4, Salah has 4, Shearer has 3, Harry Kane has 3. Out of his 100 goals, he has got 17 headers, 71 with his left foot, 11 with his right foot, and then 1 which they're just describing as other. And on average, he scores every 93 minutes. When it comes to DEFCON, the top 5 players were Esteve Colin Magasa, who got 18 points, and then Onana Wifa Ekdal, who got 17 points. Defenders need 10, and midfielders and strikers need 12 of the DEFCON points to get the point. And by the point, I mean 2 points. When it comes to stats, Haaland has 15 goals, Thiago has 11, Danny Welbeck and Mateta have 7, and Semenyo has 6. When it comes to assists, Bruno Fernandes has 5, Kudus has 5, Xhaka, Minte, Hartman, Doku, Grealish have 4. When it comes to clean sheets, David Raya has 8, Henderson has 7, Sanchez has 6, Nick Pope and Jordan Pickford have 5. And maybe that could help guide you as you look for players. Merino was up front for Arsenal again, and he scored again. And he scored with a header again, and that is the 7th out of his 10 goals that he has scored with his head. So he's a heading specialist. By this time last year, Alexander Isak only had scored 4 goals, but by the end of the season he had 27. So, reason to hope for better things from him in the new year? In the City-Fulham game, Erling Haaland got flagged for being offside. It was the first time he had been offside since 2023. This man makes no sense sometimes. Phil Foden seems to be picking up form, and he has 6 goals in his last 5 starts for Manchester City. So is he a must pick now? I think so. Just a bit more Haaland stuff. He was the fastest person to reach 20 goals, 14 games. He reached 30 goals in 27 games. He reached 40 goals in 39 games. He reached 50 goals in 48 games. And now 100 goals in 111 games. Yeah, sorry. I know it sounds like a bit of a Haaland love fest, but Pole. Haaland was the most selected player this game week. He was the most captained and the most vice-captained. In terms of this week coming in, Foden is the highest player brought in. 770,000 people have brought him in. Igor Thiago's been brought in by 265,000. Bruno Guimaraes by 200,000. Voltemada 165,000. Munoz 161,000. In terms of players out, Semenyo has been removed by 317,000. Caicedo for 277,000. João Pedro has been removed by 231,000. So you know what this means. He's going to score this week. And then he'll be most bought in next week after that. Anyway, Salah has been removed by 187,000. Gabriel has been removed by 167,000. Honestly, I'm still surprised that people still have him at this point. Since the start of last season, only West Ham have conceded more goals from corners than Manchester United. West Ham have conceded 17, Manchester United have conceded 15. Bruno Fernandes has had 40 shots without scoring against West Ham, and he had 6, including one that hit the woodwork, and this is his most without finding the net against an opponent since joining Manchester United. Chelsea have only won 19% of their Premier League games away to Leeds. They've played them 16 times and have only won 3. Among sides that have faced 10 or more times away from home, only against Manchester United, which is 18%, do they have a worse record. So I guess it seems they were never fated to win that game. 8 out of 10, 80% of Arsenal's victory have been 2-0, meaning that they score 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, like 2-0, 8 out of their 10 games. Very stable at the back. Liverpool have failed to win 3 successive games at Anfield in all competitions for the first time since March 2021. I mean, it sounds bad, but it could be worse. Since joining Chelsea, when Caicedo has missed a match, they've won 25% of their matches. And when he's on the pitch, they win 52% of their matches. He's basically Chelsea's Rodri. Pedro Neto has scored 5 goals in 14 appearances for Chelsea this season. This equals his best return in the Premier League, which was 5 in 2020 to 2021. And he's now Chelsea's top scorer. So pick him up. Since the start of last season, no duo have combined for more Premier League goals than Aston Villa's Watkins and Morgan Rogers. Solid partnership there. Since the start of last season, no Premier League player has scored more headed goals in all competitions than Arsenal's Mikel Merino, heading 8 of his 14 goals in that time. Grealish is a revived, revamped, rejuvenated player. He has been involved in 6 goals in this Premier League campaign so far, 2 goals and 4 assists, and that is as many as he managed over his last 2 campaigns for Manchester City, 6 in 40 appearances. There are only 4 teams that have been able to score 4 goals at home and still lose. Norwich lost 4-5 to Southampton in 94. In 04, Tottenham lost 4-5 to Arsenal. In 2016, Norwich lost 4-5 to Liverpool. And 2025, Fulham lost 4-5 to Manchester City. Now, there are 6 teams to score the last 3 goals of a Premier League match but still lose. Forest versus Oldham in 1992. I didn't even know Oldham made it to the Premier League. Anyway, Leicester versus Blackburn in 98. Bolton versus Chelsea in 09. Burnley versus West Ham in 09. Villa versus Southampton in 2020. And and Fulham versus Manchester City in 2025. This is the second time in their history losing at home while scoring as many as 4 goals. The last time they did this was to Leicester in September 1952. This was also the first time since 1957 that Manchester City have conceded 4 goals and won the game. They beat Sheffield Wednesday 5-4. Erling Haaland is the 35th player to score 100 goals in the Premier League. Doku has both created the most chances from open play, which is 30, and has the highest expected assists, which is 3.34 of any player in the Premier League this season. If only we knew he would start every game, he would be in more teams. The highest points this week belong to somebody called Bruno Fernandes. Maybe it's him, maybe it's not. I don't know. But anyway, this manager used their bench boost and got 138 points. In goal, he had Pickford, 7 points. Van Dijk, 4 points. Dalot, 15 points. O'Reilly, 0 points. Many of us got those 0 points. Gay, 14 points. Foden, 17 points. Grealish, 11 points. Eze, 1 point. Igor Jesus, 9 points. Haaland, 28 points. Bowen, 5 points. Henderson, 7. Yeremi, 3. Kudus, 7. Tarkowski, 10. And that's how they got 138 points. When it comes to our league, number 1 in tally points belongs to Aflagani, manager of Royal Madrid FC. They had Sanchez in goal, who gave him 1. Gehi, 14 points. Off the bench, Tarkowski came in with a big save and gave him 10. Munoz, 14, so that was a powerful backline. Doku, 8. Rice, 3. Neto, 6. Mbeumo, 2. Eze, 1. Mateta, 2. Haaland, 28 as captain. Second was your host, yours truly, Nash Chege, 88 points, so that's painful. Then Mark Mutegi, 87 points. Tim Kubwa, 86 points. And the top 5, rounding up the top 5, is Kiggs, 85 points. So it was tight. I almost had it. It's always next time. The least points this week in our group belongs to Murunga Imanyara, manager of Scouse Supreme. Kelleher, 2 points. Lewis, 0 points. Kukureya, 1 point. Rhys James, 0 points. Gordon, 6. Captain Salah, 2 points. Sar, 2 points. Kudus, 7. Cullen, 4. Ekitike, 1. Gyokeres, 1. And that gave him a grand total of 26 points. Now, second from bottom was Mozart J, got 27. Tim Odera got 28. Dennis Mutua and Clinton Ouko round up the bottom 5 with 31 points each. When it comes to most points on the bench, that honor belongs to Peter Dennis. Now, Peter Dennis had Dalot, who had 15 points, Sells, who had 6, Shaka, 4, and Wan-Bissaka, 3. So, imagine that. He had 26 points on the bench and he had 81 points. Man, this guy would have been cooking this week. And even as I look at his team, he's got a really, really good squad. It makes sense. Mark Mora had 23 points on the bench. Architect Sadiq Suleiman, 22. Clinton Uko, Solo Kamal, Stan Midea had 20 points on the bench. And that's the top 5. Mark Mutegi's team is a team that has the most goal scorers, or rather goals scored. His team had 5 goal scorers or rather 5 goals scored by his players. I don't know why this part always confuses me. Team with the best midfield, Aboki Juniors, Ahman Jr., they delivered 41 points for him this week. Well done to you. And it comes to the best defense, Nicolas Badier. His defense had 42 points. Well done. Manager Buonaji, manager of Team Kaiser Sose, and Don Clinton were tied with making 7 transfers this week, which is a loss of 24 points. Well, at least looking at your teams, at least it seems like you got 64 points, Buonaji, so that's not too bad. But that's 40-something in total. So I guess maybe now you have the right direction. Don Clinton, I know you are a tough one. I don't know what your end goal. Now, when it comes to the best transfer outcome, Mark Mutegi made 2 transfers and those yielded him 21 points. He removed Sarr and brought in Foden, and removed Senesi and got Esteve. And just these 2 players brought in 21, with of course Foden having 17. Great decision. Well done to you, sir. Martin Asewe got 18. Ashwin Lee had a good week as well, 17 points. Joel Andebe got 16 and Smacha Cham got 14 points. Keep making those good decisions, boys. When it comes the other way, Don Clinton lost 30 points. Buonaji lost 21 points. Vibav Naik lost 22 points. Collins Kogi got negative 19. And Kime Mutinda lost negative 18. So sometimes no move is the best move? I don't know. When it comes to the team with the highest team value, it's a tie at the top. Anton N and Kapiende Massive Alvin O both have teams valued at 104.7. When it comes to the team with the lowest team value, Murunga Manyara 97.4. Tough. Got the lowest points and now the team has the lowest value. I guess those things sort of mirror each other. When it comes to the highest change in team value, 254 has added 0.5 to their team. And then Wilson Ding has lost 0.9 in terms of team value. When it comes to the top differential picks in our group this game week, Kojo Danso had the number one most differential pick out of everybody, with 1% choosing him. Romero gave him 17 points. And then the second lowest differential pick in our group is Foden. 7% of us own him. Isn't that interesting? And then Ben White, who's also owned by 1%, 14 points. And then Gay, 14 points, but he's owned by 33%, so that's not quite a differential. Merino, who got 13 points, is owned by 2%. Watkins is owned by 3%, who got 13. And Van Hecker, also owned by 1%, got 12. So those are a few differentials if you're trying to make moves in our table this week. When it comes to captain choices, the most popular captain is still Haaland, and he was chosen by 131 of us. Then after that, it's a grand drop. 8 people captained Bruno Fernandes. Another 7 captained Mateta. I know people were very done with Haaland after that loss last week. Another 7 captained Saka. Another 6 captained Salah. Another 6 captained João Pedro. Another 5 captained Mbeumo. Oh, that must have been a painful wait for last night. Another 2 captained Gyokeres. Another 2 captained Wood. Another 2 captained Gakpo. 2 captained Palmer. 2 captained Semenyo. And then Bowen, Voltemada, Hudson-Odoi, Grealish, Virgil van Dijk, Raul Jimenez, Eze, Evan Nilsson, Watkins, Merino, Rice, Odegaard, Timber, and Gabriel were captained by 1 manager each. So you can see there was a much more variation compared to last week when everybody thought Haaland was going to destroy Leeds. Aflagani has jumped the most positions in global rank this week. He has jumped 1.1 million positions this week. The biggest drop is Escobar season, 1.3 million positions down globally. When it comes to streak of green arrows, Long Gililo Otiomondi, 10 straight weeks of doing good stuff. Teach us your ways, master. When it comes to the opposite, Mr. Murunga Manyara, 6th red arrow in 6 weeks. But looking at his team, he doesn't change it. So that one is pretty much an easy fix. The highest league ranker, of course, is Aflagani. With 89 points, he jumped 27 positions. Architect Sadiq Suleiman dropped 26 in the other end. When it comes to league table, Arnold Midunga has retained number 1, but barely. He has 883 points and is in number 1. Number 2, Jeffrey Jeremy, is 1 point behind him, has 882 points. Number 3 is Madagani Kihoro, 862 points. Franklin Asiama, number 4, 861 points. Ron Chisaka, 851 points. Alan Muchangi, 850 points. Charlie Cadovillas, Charlie's Reds, number 7, 848 points. Mark Mutegi, 845 points. Fama Champez, 842 points. Amos Langat is number 10 with 838 points. Now, from 883 to 783 is 100 points. And that belongs to Mr. Abel Kibunja and Ashwin Lee. They are tied with 783 points. And so from there, just 1 or 2 good game weeks and you're right up there at the top or in the top 10. So keep going, guys. At the other end, out of 194 players, Mark Moore is our bottom with 159. He joined late. Don Clinton has 383 points, anchoring the bottom. I'm sure by the end of this season, Mark Mora would have overtaken him. Murunga Manyara is third from bottom with 507. Mike Mbogwa has 526 points. And rounding up the top 5, or rather the bottom 5, is Tatiana Mislenovic. 36 points he got this week and 543 points. Now, as you know, today is Friday and tomorrow is Saturday and the game week kicks off. Yesterday was Thursday, the game week ended. So we are on like a time crunch. It feels like everything is happening very quick and fast. So it's very important to make your decisions. There's no waiting for team reports, blah, blah. Just make your decisions and go quickly. Do not miss the deadlines. be on top of your game. This is the month that really makes or breaks people. This is also when a lot of people tend to fall out of fantasy. So kicking off tomorrow will be Aston Villa versus Arsenal. And this is early kickoff. Now, both teams had impressive victories over the weekend. I mean, the game week. And so it'll be interesting. Both teams are in great form. I mean, Aston Villa have won 5 of their last 5 games. Arsenal have drawn 2 and won 3 of the last 5 games. So these are maybe the 2 top teams in form facing each other. So this is, for me, the marquee game of the game week. The head-to-head shows that Aston Villa have the capacity to disappoint Arsenal. In their last 5 encounters, there's been 1 draw, 2 wins for Arsenal, 2 wins for Aston Villa. Now, what does that mean? It means that this game could go anywhere. Now, does this mean Watkins has found form at the right point in time? Maybe, maybe not. Now, for me, I'm going to say if you're going to believe in Arsenal, you still have to keep their defender. Whichever one is working for you, that is the right one. But given that the defenders are a bit weak, and Aston Villa have the capacity in a way like Chelsea do to attack their weakness, so there might be goals in this one from both sides. So I might encourage you to maybe use, instead of having 3 Arsenal defenders or 2 defenders, but rotate one out. If you have Raya and you have a better goalkeeper or somebody with an easier match, rotate that. Or if you have a defender, rotate that one. Because I think this is the kind of game where it could be 2-1, 1-1, 3-1. That kind of a thing. Now, if you're going to be choosing Arsenal players, Merino should be number 1. And then possibly Eze or Saka if you're choosing 3 players. And you can't count out Rice, but then he picked up a knock towards the end, so it's unclear whether he will be available. So do with that what you will. On the other end, on the Aston Villa side, now it's pretty hard to ignore Watkins scoring 2 goals. So I would say Watkins, you have to just gamble. After all, you've seen in our group he's owned by a low percentage of people. He might be a great differential, even though this is a tough team. Morgan Rogers is another one. And I'm going to be cheeky and say Mullen, because Mullen he seems to come on and score. So those are the 3 I would recommend. Now, another thing to think about when you're approaching this game week is, like, for example, the game week just ended yesterday. There will be rotations. The problem is that it is hard to know, but I think an easier way to do it, which is maybe poor logic, is if your player did not start midweek, it is likely that he will start in this game, and vice versa. Unless it's Haaland, of course. Now, next is Bournemouth versus Chelsea. Both teams were absolutely disappointing over the game week. Now, with Champions League looming on Tuesday, it'll be interesting to see how Arsenal line up against Aston Villa, and how Chelsea line up against Bournemouth. He did a poor rotation against Leeds. He might do another poor rotation against Bournemouth, and then a rotation in Champions League. So, but I'm thinking that because of the shame he just experienced over the week, I believe he will put out the strongest Chelsea squad that he has available to him. So I believe the Palmers will start. I know Caicedo is not there, but I think that he will put in Santos over there. I think Garnacho will start. I think Neto will start. And I think João Pedro will, of course, start. So, well, Bournemouth didn't have that problem. They just suck because they're just in weird form right now. If you believe in Bournemouth's potential to upset Chelsea, which is quite possible if I'm honest, Semenyo, Kluivert, Krupi would be your best bets. On the Chelsea end, I honestly think Neto, João Pedro, and maybe Palmer if he starts. Now, when it comes to their recent form, Bournemouth have lost 4 out of their last 5 games and drawn only 1, so they're not favourites for this encounter given their form. Chelsea have won 3, drawn 1, lost 1. So Chelsea are in better form. Now, when it comes to head-to-head, Chelsea have drawn 2 and won 3. So everything is looking form plus history makes this Chelsea's to lose. So that's where I would recommend you to lean towards, should you be leaning one way or another. Now, the next game sees Everton take on Nottingham Forest. Now, both teams have been really good defensively. Both teams have been good in recent form. Nottingham Forest have won 4 out of their last 5 games. They've only lost 1. Now, Everton have lost 1, won 3, drawn 1. So both teams are also in really good form. Now, when it comes to head-to-head, this game, listen to the past results. Everton 1, Forest 0. Forest 2, Everton 0. Everton 2, Forest 0. Everton 1, Forest 0. So those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, and then the last one is 2-2. So it goes to show that if one side wins, it is a 1-0 or a 2-0. It's never 2-1 or 3-1 or 4-2. It's 1-1. I mean, it's 1-0 or 2-0. And that is the result that is likely in this one as well. And to that end, if you choose the right defender from either side, I'm sure the best result would be a 0-0. And so this is a game where you look at the defense. And so Pickford will be popular, Tarkowski will be popular. And then you can get a Dewsbury Hall or a Grealish who scored. Maybe Grealish, Pickford, Tarkowski, Grealish. Those are my recommendations from Everton. On the other end, Sells, Anderson and Gibbs-White are my recommendations. Moving on, you have Manchester City versus Sunderland. Now, in the last 5 games, Sunderland have 3 draws, 1 win, 1 loss. Manchester City have 3 wins and 2 losses. Now, both teams are quite interesting in that there's a very low potential for clean sheets in this fixture because both teams aren't quite great defensively, but both teams are quite capable of scoring. If you believe in this, Haaland, of course, is your best bet as captain and as a starter. Foden has been in great form, and then Doku. Those are the 3 attacking players I would choose from Manchester City. From Sunderland, it is a bit trickier, but I will go with Enzo Lefebvre, Talbi, and Isidore. Those are the 3 players I would recommend from this team. I'm hoping for another lively encounter like Manchester City against Fulham. Sunderland have drawn with Liverpool, have drawn with Arsenal. They have potential to not be beaten by Manchester City. But Manchester City tend to be good against promoted sides. So let's see what happens. Newcastle take on Burnley. Burnley have lost 5 in a row. Newcastle have lost 2, won 2, drawn 1. So Burnley are the whipping boys currently right now. And I believe Newcastle should be favourites in this encounter. Burnley did have chances against Crystal Palace, and honestly, they were unfortunate not to score in that game. Now, given that potential, they do have potential to score in this one. And if you believe in that, I would say Fleming, Foster, and Chona are their best bets. On the other end, Voltemada, Mr. Joelinton, and Murphy are your best bets. Of course, Guimaraes could score if he plays. Now, moving on, you have Tottenham versus Brentford. Now, their forms are not great. In the last 5, Tottenham have lost 3 and drawn 2. Brentford have lost 3 and won 2. So their form isn't great. Brentford lost to Arsenal last time out, and that's expected. Newcastle drew with Spurs, and Spurs were okay. So when it comes to choosing players in this fixture, I think Brentford are the better team, and I think Thiago, Ouattara, and Damsgaard, or maybe Shada, should be your best choices. Kudus has been quietly good, so I would say Romero, Kudus, yeah, that's it. Of course, I think Tell, Richarlison, and Mwani can do something, but they're just too inconsistent. But in recent form, I'm going for Romero and Kudus as recommendations for this game. Now, next match, we'll see Leeds take on Liverpool. Leeds just beat Chelsea, and they will be buoyed by that. They made a tactical change going to a 5-3-2, which made them much more solid and much more difficult to play against. I believe they will do this lineup against Liverpool. Liverpool can be gotten at, they can be scored, they can be beaten. But Liverpool are still Liverpool, and you have to give them their respect. When it comes to the recent history, Liverpool have won 1, drawn 1, lost 3. Leeds have lost 4, won 1. So their formula isn't too dissimilar. If you believe in Leeds' capacity to win this game, Mecha, Tanaka, and Calvert-Lewin are your best bets for Leeds. On the Liverpool side, I would say Vert seems to be turning a corner, so he could right now be a differential. Isak, if you want to do that, and Gakpo. Van Dijk tends to be making mistakes, so I wouldn't recommend him even if I have him and I'm not moving him. But I wouldn't get into this game for a Liverpool defender. And it's quite interesting to see that they have all these attackers, but you can't pick out one to score. They're not in great shape right now. So even if you would want to avoid this fixture from their perspective, I wouldn't blame you. Moving on to the next day, you will see Brighton take on West Ham. Now, this is going to be an interesting game. Brighton have won 3, drawn 1, and lost 1 of their last 5. And their last loss was a quite entertaining game, 4-3 against Aston Villa. Now, West Ham have drawn 2, lost 2. Drawn 2, won 2, lost 1. So they are in repair. And they are not as easy as people think, which is also why I used my triple captain. While people were thinking the West Ham game will be the one. Nuno knows how to set up his teams. Now, the thing which I like about Brighton is that they have this guy called De Kuiper. He is registered as a defender, but he plays as a left winger. And therefore, when he scores, he gets the points as, like if he scores, it's like a defender scores. So I'm just going to have him in my defense now moving forward. And if he doesn't play, that's fine. He'll be put on the bench. So that's my first recommendation. And then you have Welbeck and Minte. Those are the 3 you should be having. If you believe in their defense, Van Haka scored 2 goals. Have him. On the West Ham side, Magasa looked good. He got the DEFCON points. Owen and Wilson. Those are the 3 I would recommend. Now, moving on to Fulham versus Crystal Palace. Fulham played quite an extensive and impressive game against Manchester City, while Crystal Palace just did the business and got a 1-0 win. Now, Harry Wilson, Emil Smith-Rowe, and Chukwueze are the people I would recommend from Fulham. And if you have Iwobi and Bassi, they're going to Africa Cup, so start getting rid of your African players. Crystal Palace, if you're looking for them, at this point you might as well have 3 defenders, Henderson, Gueye, and Munoz. But if you're not going to do that, I would recommend you have maybe Mateta, Munoz, and Henderson. That is how I'm actually currently rolling. And then on Monday, Manchester United have another late kickoff. They played yesterday, which is Thursday, and they will play on Monday. And they play Wolves. So this might be the first game where it might make sense to have a Manchester United defender. But then Manchester United tend to disappoint in unlikely situations. They go down to 10 men against Everton and they lose. So they just have the potential to disappoint, but I think they will be favorites in this one. At this point, the most creative players for Manchester United are Bruno Fernandes and Ahmad. Then outside that, you could gamble with Casemiro, Mbeumo, and Cunha. I'm not sure why you would be looking at Wolves players, but should you be that guy who wants the super differential, I guess you could say Strand Larsen, maybe Bellegarde, and Arias. I really had high hopes for Arias at the beginning, if you remember. He just did so well in the Club World Cup. Anyway, so yeah, those are the people I would recommend. When it comes to choosing captains, Aston Villa versus Arsenal. If you're a super gambler and you have Watkins, why not? And then Merino, Saka. Bournemouth, Chelsea, Pedro Neto could be good. Semenyo could also be good. Because as you've seen with Chelsea, they can literally be beaten by anybody. And so Semenyo or El Krupi could perform. Everton versus Forest. Over here, if you choose maybe Grealish or Tarkowski. And on the Forest side, maybe Morgan Gibbs-White. If you had to, I don't know. Man City, Haaland, no questions about it. And Foden. If you choose one of those 2, assuming they both play, or rather assuming Foden plays, because we know Haaland will play. Newcastle versus Burnley. Let's see. Okay. On the Sunderland end, in case they disappoint, Enzo Lefebvre would be the best bet. Newcastle versus Burnley, Voltemada, Bruno Guimaraes. Burnley side, don't choose a captain. Spurs versus Brentford, Romero versus or Igor Thiago. Leeds, Mecha, Liverpool, should they score? I can believe in Gakpo or Isak. Brighton versus West Ham, Welbeck / Callum Wilson. Fulham versus Crystal Palace, Munoz would be a great captain. On the Fulham side, maybe Jimenez or Harry Wilson. Actually, Harry Wilson first, and then maybe Chukwueze second, given his form the other day. And then Manchester United versus Wolves. Your pick here is fine. If you think it's going to be Zexi, it will be Zexi. If you think it's going to be Ahmad or Bruno or Mbeumo or Cunha, whichever one you choose, there's no clear captain, but they are favorites. So, yeah. And those are my captain choices. I know this week I've given many, but the games just feel open. I want us to look at number one in the world. Number one in the world used their wild card this week. They are called wizards, so I can't tell you if they're male or female. They used their wild card and they got 76 points. Now, that 76 points led them to have 789 points, so they are over 100 points better than our group leader. Now, number one in goal, they have Ramsdale, which is a goalkeeper I wanted to have. 1 point. Timber, who didn't play the whole game, 1 point, played only from halftime. Gehi and Munoz, 14 points each. Good call. Mbeumo, Fernandes, 2 and 4. Semenyo, 4. Gakpo, 1. Voltemada, 5. Mateta, 2. Haaland, 28. So you can see the defense really carried him. So yeah, number one, Wizards, 76 points. That's how their team looks. When it comes to the FPL FDR, Arsenal have Aston Villa, Wolves, Everton, Brighton, and Aston Villa again. So outside Aston Villa, which will be their toughest game both times, it'll be time to get into Arsenal 3 players max, Then Aston Villa, on the other hand, have Arsenal, West Ham, Man United, Chelsea, and and Arsenal again. So their fixtures are a bit more difficult than Arsenal's fixtures. So I wouldn't encourage you to get into them. But if Watkins is hot, it might be worth it to get him and his partner, Mr. Rogers, who you had. They have a great duo combination. Bournemouth have Chelsea, Man United, Burnley, Brentford, and Chelsea. So I guess we're at that time where people play each other twice. The second leg begins, rather. Now, Bournemouth have been a bit meh of late, and I would not encourage you to get into their players. That fire they started with this season has sort of faded, and now we're getting into the most intense period of the season. I think they need recruitments or maybe people to recover from injuries. They just seem tired. Brentford have Tottenham, and then Leeds, Wolves, Bournemouth, and Tottenham again. Honestly, I'm bringing Igor Thiago after this Tottenham game, and I think you should all bring him in as well. Brighton have West Ham, Liverpool, Sunderland, Arsenal, and West Ham again. These are reasonable fixtures. Honestly, I could see them beat West Ham or get a result. I could see them beat Liverpool. Maybe Sunderland could be tricky and Arsenal could be tricky. Burnley have Newcastle, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, and Newcastle. Burnley, I don't know. I honestly just think they're going down. So I wouldn't get into them right now. Chelsea have Bournemouth, Everton, Newcastle, Aston Villa, Bournemouth. These are tricky fixtures, and Chelsea are capable of beating everybody, but they are also capable of losing 3 of these 5 fixtures. That is their problem. They're like a better Spurs. Crystal Palace have Fulham, City, Leeds, Tottenham, and Fulham. Outside the City game, I think it's worth having investments in their players. They've been solid so far. Over the last 2 seasons, their season would really now start in January. But this season, they've been consistent so far, and I hope they're able to sustain it throughout the season. Everton have Forest, Chelsea, Arsenal, Burnley, and Forest again. Now, how they play against Forest this immediate game week will show us what to expect from them moving forward. Because if they lose to Forest, they'll be struggling. The game against Chelsea will be difficult. The game against Arsenal will be difficult. Then they can beat Burnley, and then they'll have Forest again, and that will make it 4 difficult games. But if they can beat Forest, suddenly they have 3 winnable games. So this is not the time to get into their defenders, but it is only their defenders that are worth having. So just if you believe in them, just get Tarkowski and Pickford, and then just close your eyes. Fulham have Crystal Palace, Burnley, Forest, West Ham, and Crystal Palace. Now, Everton and Fulham are in similar positions in that if they lose to Crystal Palace, they'll probably lose to them twice. But then, both ways, Burnley, Forest, and West Ham can be winnable games. Can be. Forest depends on what kind of Forest they find, and West Ham depends on their journey and their no. So their games are a bit tricky. Leeds have Liverpool, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Sunderland, and Liverpool again. I think these are difficult games. I think they will do well to get 5 points here. Let's just see what happens. Liverpool have Leeds, Brighton, Tottenham, Wolves, and Leeds again. In theory, winnable games, which is why I have Van Dijk. But on the ground, they keep conceding, and it's hard to know where the attack is coming from. They're sort of scraping by, and they're also losing a lot. So I would say don't be fooled by the fixtures, and maybe wait until the Wolves and Leeds fixtures to see. I don't know. They're not encouraging. Man City, on the other hand, have Sunderland, Crystal Palace, West Ham, Forest, and Sunderland. Just get Haaland and Foden. Manchester United have Wolves, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Newcastle, Wolves. So they have 2 games which are on paper easy, which is Wolves. Then they have a soft Bournemouth, and then tricky Aston Villa, Newcastle. So I can see 3 wins out of 5. It's just a matter of who will you pick. Is it Bruno? And then Mbeumo is going, so maybe it's time for Cunha. Ahmad is also going, so how does Africa Cup affect them? Newcastle have Burnley, Sunderland, Chelsea, Man United, and Burnley again. Honestly, these seem like winnable fixtures. And yeah, they just seem like winnable fixtures. So maybe not defensively, but they're definitely worth looking into. If you can gamble on a Voltemada, you might find the right player. It's just about choosing the right player. I do not particularly believe in the defense outside the Burnley game, but if you're getting defenders just for the Burnley game, definitely will be worth it. Nottingham Forest have Everton, Tottenham, Fulham, City, and Everton. And these are going to be tricky fixtures. They're going to be tricky fixtures. All of these teams present different challenges, and it'll be interesting to see how Sean Dyche manages to navigate them. If you've already gotten players, that's fine. If you haven't, I don't know. I don't feel like I would recommend you to have their players right now. Spurs have Brentford, Forest, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, and Brentford again. Now, this team, it seems like you can only really recommend Kudus and Romero or Van de Ven, but it's random because this week was Romero to have 15 points, next week might be Van de Ven to have 17. That's how they just are. And then Kudus will be providing the assists to maybe Mwani, maybe Tell, maybe Richarlison. So that's the problem with this team. Just inconsistent. Sunderland have honestly navigated that difficult spell of theirs in a very impressive way. Now they have Man City, Newcastle, Brighton, Leeds, and Man City again. Honestly, let's see what they do against Manchester City, but I think they can definitely give Newcastle, Brighton, and Leeds a run for their money. West Ham have Brighton, Villa, Man City, Fulham, and Brighton. These are tricky fixtures as well, but they're in a transition as well. So I believe that even if I can see many draws and tight losses in this one, and maybe tight victories. It could go either way, that kind of a game. So if you watch this space, you could see something. But right now, still steer clear. Wolves have Man United, Arsenal, Brentford, Liverpool, and Man United again. Just steer clear of Wolves players. That's that. And with that, that is the end of this podcast. The game week is tomorrow. Make your team. Good luck. Bye.